Rigor has to mean more than just difficult. A rigorous course gets students thinking and working hard. It's not designed simply to weed out those who are not college material. Such courses require teachers to have lessons that connect to youth and their world, linking students to the community, to the workplace through projects, service work, and paid work should all be options as Cleveland Superintendent Eugene Sanders intends to implement. Every kid can graduate ready for college is an inspiring goal that needs to be bolstered by alternatives for the students who do not make it. That almost 2/3 of minority students admitted to college fail to get a degree within 6 years speaks to more than high school preparation. It speaks to college affordability and the availability of slots. In my home state, for example, in the past few years, the California State University system has reduced enrollment by 40,000 students. As a country that prides itself on providing second chances, more needs to be created for the increasing numbers of young people who leave school early or are unprepared for a productive future. The experience of the small high school movement across the country, including Mapleton, and what's projected here in Cleveland, suggests that these settings can offer an academically demanding curriculum, college and career options, and when done well with patience and fortitude, as in Mapleton, can yield academic gains for students who have been neglected far too long. Thank you for your attention.
Today at the City Club of Cleveland, we are listening to a Friday forum featuring Larry Cuban, Professor Emeritus of Education at Stanford University. We will return to our speaker momentarily for the traditional City Club questions. We encourage you to formulate your questions now and remind you that your questions should be brief and to the point. We remind you that members and guests alike are welcome to attend City Club forums and hope everyone listening will join the City Club and become involved in our ongoing civic dialogue. Please visit our website, cityclub.org, to see a full schedule of our upcoming programs. Today is a Nelson E. Weiss Endowed Forum made possible by the family and friends of Nelson Weiss. Joining us at the head table today is the family of Mr. Weiss, David and Erica Weiss, and Rebecca and Ken Zerm. I'm not sure if Ken has joined us today. Will you please stand and be recognized? Thank you. We are pleased to welcome guests at tables hosted by the Greater Cleveland School Superintendents Association, who has helped to make this program possible today. We would also like to thank a Cultural Exchange, who has provided copies of Professor Cuban's book, Oversold and Underused: Computers in the Classroom, for purchase in the lobby. Thank you all for helping us today. We are pleased to welcome to our forum today students who are here as part of our City Club student program. Participation of these students is made possible by a generous contribution from the Fox Foundation. With us today are students from High Tech Academy, the School of Science and Medicine, and East Tech High School. Will the students please stand and be recognized? Now we return to that great moment at the City Club, listening to our speaker address questions from you. We welcome questions from everyone, including guests. Holding the microphones today are City Club Development Director Cheryl Helden and Development Assistant Lucille Barbati. First question, please.
Mr. Cuban, would you please discuss how the small school concept and student performance are affected by several things. Number one is parochial and charter schools. Number two is unionized versus non-unionized schools. And number three, such factors as single-gender schools and school uniforms.
Yes. You're absolutely correct. All the factors that you mentioned influence the nature of small high schools and whatever achievements are attributed to them, which means that it's very important to figure out that size in of itself is not the critical variable. There's a whole bunch of other things, and I think you summed them up very well. Now, before I go to the next question, I want to acknowledge one of my co-authors who is here. Arthur Evanchek, right here, is one of the co-authors. There were 5 of us who created the book. Created doesn't mean we made it up out of whole cloth, but we wrote this book together, 5 of us, and I should point out that there are no royalties involved with this. We have assigned the royalties to the District of Mapleton itself, so I wanted you to know that. Next question.
Mr. Cuban, you mentioned earlier on that nationwide, about 30% of the high school students do not graduate.
Right.
In the city of Cleveland, Dr. Sanders, when he was here a few weeks ago, mentioned the Cleveland school system, almost 50% of the students do not graduate. I know it's been many years since you taught at Glenville High School, but you are basically familiar with some of the things that happened in Cleveland.
Yes.
Can you describe any reasons as to why the graduation rates in Cleveland, city of Cleveland, are less than the national average? And do you have any specific suggestions as to what might apply other than the ones you mentioned today?
Well, the statistics that Dr. Sanders mentioned, and I'll assume that what you have said is reported is accurate, are statistics that characterize most urban districts in the United States. It's not just peculiar to Cleveland to have such lower numbers of students that are in largely minority and largely low-income high schools to have those rates be so low. That's not unusual in Cleveland. If you were to go to most major cities, you would have those rates among African Americans, Latinos, and I also should point out white Appalachian poor too. So that's not peculiar to Cleveland. It has a lot to do with what I've already indicated, the nature of large comprehensive high schools located in urban settings, that the impersonalization, the alienation, a whole bunch of things, and the small high schools are a response to that. Now, a lot of people, including Mr. Gates, have lost interest in small high schools because of the test scores didn't go up, the graduation rates have not shot up. And I would argue that anything that gets kids engaged in school, meaning that they can be recognized, that they feel better about coming to school, that in of itself is worthwhile, period. Now, whether it produces the outcomes that are desired by impatient reformers, that's another question. I happen to believe that a lot of those things will occur in time if the cadre of teachers and the principal at those small high schools are working together. But the statistics that you described are national insofar as urban districts.